Okay, can you hear me now? Can you see the presentation?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes, you can see it.
So basically, what we're going to talk about basically are the symptoms of malware. These are the kind of behaviors that you would expect when you have malware on your computer, basically. The first one actually is to have increased CPU usage. So basically, computer is, you feel that the fan is working overtime or working basically, or the CPU basically is, when you try to look at the processes that you're having on your computer, you notice that the CPU percentage is very high without having any significant programs running. So this is a problem. And definitely this would be accompanied by a decrease in the computer speed, because basically some other applications are basically consuming the resources from the computer. So this is a big problem. Sometimes the computer crashes or freezes, basically. So basically, this is one of the very dangerous symptoms about malware, having a malware. You have a slower web browsing speed. Usually web browsing is dependent on the internet speed, but actually when you have malware, you have a problem on the computer itself. So basically, sometimes the processes resulting from the malware are communicating over the internet. So basically, they are slowing down the web browsing speed. You have unexplainable problems with network connections. So basically, you're connected, but you don't see internet, for example. Okay. So basically, you have unexplainable problems. You're trying to debug the problem from the network, and basically, you're unable to do that. There are files that were found, or basically, you notice that your files are modified or even deleted sometimes. Okay, so this is a big problem. This is basically a later stage of the malware infection, basically. Presence of unknown files, programs, or desktop icons, basically. You notice that some programs that you didn't remember installing are there. And you see some files that you don't know about, and you don't know where they came from. So basically, this is very dangerous also. Of course, if you look at the processes for more advanced users, you can actually look at the task manager, and basically you look at the processes that are running. Usually, the process names actually are kind of difficult to remember and difficult to know. But actually, there are some processes that are taking a lot of resources, and you don't identify them. They are not like Windows resources or Windows processes. They are basically processes that you're not sure where they are coming from. So basically, this is a big problem, basically, when you have processes that are using resources and you don't know anything about them. Usually, when you have a list of processes, you can actually get the name of the process and look it up on the internet. Usually, if it's a malware, then you will find some people talking about this as a problem. Basically, they are reporting that on somewhere. Okay. Sometimes programs are turning off or reconfiguring by themselves. So this is also a big problem. So basically, you're adjusting the way your icons look in, for example, Word or Microsoft PowerPoint or whatever. And basically, you come and find that they reconfigure themselves. They look different. So basically, this is also a symptom of having malware. Sometimes you can actually notice that emails are being sent without basically you knowing about them. So basically, you find that you already sent some emails to your friends, for example. So your friends tell you that we received some emails from you. Okay, and you didn't remember sending these emails, and these emails usually basically propagating or basically infecting other computers. So basically, this is a very late stage of being infected. So basically, if you notice any one of these, just be careful, okay, and basically try to investigate if your computer has malware. Okay, so of course, malware is all kinds of malware that we talked about last time. Remember what we talked about last time? Basically, these are the kind of things that we talked about last time. The next thing we're going to talk about basically is social engineering. Social engineering means that what you have, basically, basically you're trying to trick a person so that he can basically divulge some of the information he has about his system, about his company's information system or whatever. So basically, in this kind of attack, basically, uh, attacker manipulates a person who knows the password into providing it. Of course, you talk about the password, you talk about the credentials in general. Okay, the credentials usually, the system credentials, his username and password. For example, if you are basically you consider your King Abdulaziz University account, basically these are the credentials that the hackers are looking for. So basically, with social engineering, you can basically try to trick people to basically give you their credentials, and this is very dangerous basically. Okay, we're going to talk about this in a little bit more detail later on. Okay, basically, if a social engineer basically tricks somebody to give him his password, of course usernames are much easier to get because they are on your email. So basically, sometimes it's just a matter of getting the password. There are some attacks that are called brute force attacks, which is basically trying all combinations for the password until you get the password. So basically, you're trying several possible passwords, okay, in an attempt to guess the password. You don't know the password, okay. People who are using brute force attacks create their own dictionaries, and basically they assume that the password is 8 characters, for example, or 8 digits, for example. Basically, are trying all the combinations. Sometimes they actually create some kind of a dictionary out of any hacked website. So, for example, maybe 10, 15 years ago, there was a big breach for Yahoo accounts, basically, and basically hackers were able to get the information of users, including passwords. So basically, if you take these passwords, if the hackers take these passwords, and assuming that users use the same password in different accounts, basically they can take these passwords and add them to the dictionary and try them first. If they work, that's fine. They basically made things easier for them. Otherwise, you would try all the combinations basically until they get the right combination and basically gets the password. Uh, Notice that if you have a password consisting of 4 digits, for example, so basically we're talking about 4-digit password here, okay? Then you have to try 10,000 combinations. Just imagine that 4-digit number is from 0000 to 9999. And basically, if you try all these combinations, you're certain to get the 4-digit password. Okay, so basically, as I was saying, brute force attacks usually involve word lists file containing list of words taken from dictionary or basically and try all the words and common combinations. So basically, it's not a very good idea to try or basically use a password that is a word from the dictionary. Okay, if you use a word out of the dictionary, you have to modify it a little bit. Okay, so basically this is extremely important. It's very important that you be careful when you basically create a password. Don't use your name, don't use a common name or a person's name, because these are usually in the dictionary of the hackers and they would actually be tried first. So try to have a word that is not in the dictionary and try to make it as long as possible, as we're going to see in a short while. Okay. uh, Brute force attacks actually take very much time. Basically, imagine that if you have 4 digits, you have 10,000 combinations. Imagine that if you have digits or numbers or special characters, then it would take much more combinations to be able to guess the password. Okay, so basically, the advantage of having a complex password, sorry, for some reason, okay, page up. For some reason, basically the really sorry about the equipment malfunction this time, because I have to get the lecture from somewhere other than my office. So basically, it's a problem. Basically, so basically, you have if you have complex passwords, then it would take much longer to guess. Basically, if you have a complex password, if you're using things other than the digits and number and characters, just regular characters, basically you're adding more difficulty to the guessing process. So this is very important to take care of, actually, to think about. Okay, it's very important. Okay. The other thing, you can actually know the password through something called network sniffing. Network sniffing means that what you are trying to do is basically listen to the traffic on an internet cable, for example. Okay, so for a company or something like that, you can basically either tap into the line that is providing the internet to that company and basically listen to the traffic in hope for somebody using the password on an unencrypted site. So basically, if you're not encrypting if you're using your password on unencrypted site, so basically the password will be basically in plain text on the internet cable. So you can basically just grab it from there. Okay, so by listening and capturing packets sent on the network, attackers may be able to discover passwords if it is being sent unencrypted in plain text. We're using password cracking tool if they are encrypted. We're going to try something like that actually ourselves. I'm going to show you how to actually do that. There are tools that are available. If you actually captured a password that is encrypted, you can actually give it to a program and it will try to basically unencrypt it. But actually they do it in a way that is actually, it's not like they have the key to the encryption or anything like that. No, they try different ways basically, because actually it's like a reverse hash. So basically there are ways actually that would take time, but eventually they will get the password. So basically you can do password cracking or basically illegally obtain passwords using either social engineering or trying different combinations, or you can actually do network sniffing. We talked about phishing. Phishing is very important, where a malicious party sends fraudulent email disguised as being from a legitimate trusted source. This is one of the things that I talked about last time. I told you that I actually got more than one email from Amazon, for example, saying that my account or my order had a problem and I had to basically update the credit card password, okay, or the credit card information, okay. This is a very dangerous email, because basically if you try to do that, if you think that it's from Amazon and the email itself actually looks from Amazon, but the sender is not Amazon. So basically the sender is something else. It's sent from another email address. It's not an Amazon email address. So basically that's why I knew that this was a phishing email. So basically the intent of the message is to trick the recipient basically into installing malware on their device or into sharing personal or financial information. In my case, actually, it was trying to trick me to share my financial information. So an example of that, an email forged to look like it was sent by a retail store asking the user to click a link to claim a prize. Okay, so basically if you click that link, basically it would basically take you to a fake website, and basically it might ask for personal or financial information that is basically privileged, or basically install a virus, which is extremely bad for the computer. Basically be careful when you open a link from an email. Okay, it's very dangerous actually. Don't open attachments and don't click on a link until you verify that this email is legitimate. Phishing by default is something that is general. This is by default general, okay? Basically, it is sent to so many people. Basically, it's not sent to somebody in particular. The term spear phishing is meant for a particular target. So it's basically it's phishing, but it's basically highly targeted. Okay, this means that, for example, you know that one of your friends is, let's not just talk about one of your friends. Just imagine that a hacker knows that a person or like an owner of a company or something like that is interested in buying a car or something like that, or basically is looking for certain types of cars. Okay, you might send him an email, or the hacker might send him an email saying that there is a car that looks like whatever he is looking for, and this car is available in this particular location, and basically an image of this car is here. Okay, so basically he imagines that, or basically he has an image of that car, and basically asks the user to click it if he wants to enlarge it. Okay, and by clicking that image, basically the, the clicking actually activates a link that would actually install a virus, or basically steal some information from that computer. Okay, so basically spear phishing is combination of social engineering and phishing. Basically you're targeting a very specific person. You basically study that person. You research what his habits are. You research what he's looking for, his hobbies or whatever, so that you can communicate with him with specific information that is basically very specific to him in particular. It's not like a general information or a general email like what you would get from phishing. That would fit anybody. No, this is actually designed for a specific person, for a specific target. So basically, if you do that, then it's much higher, or the likelihood is much higher for the person to click that link, because basically he thinks that it's actually legitimate. Nobody knows that I want this car, for example. Or basically, it's actually, it seems like somebody who knows me, or basically I was actually asking for that kind of car in an ad or something like that. So basically somebody is responding to that with this information. So basically you might think that this is a legitimate email and tries to get the information about the car. And basically this is the way the hackers use to install the malware. So basically, in general, if you have a vulnerability, vulnerability exploitation has several steps. First of all, you gather information about the target system. Okay, this can be done by different ways. Okay, such as what's called port scanner, or basically if you have access to the people working on it, you can try social engineering, with the goal is to learn as much as possible about the target computer. Okay, so basically, for example, if a computer of, for example, the American Ministry of Defense, for example, or Department of Defense, okay, they have a supercomputer that holds the information about the secret agents, or basically the weapons that are deployed all over the world, for example. Okay, so you want to know exactly what this information is. So basically, you try things like port scanner from away, from afar. So basically, if it's on the internet, if that computer has access to the internet, you try to reach it through a port scanner. Port scanner is a way of identifying the processes that are running on the computer. Okay, and basically it's a little bit, if you learn about networking, actually you can do that. It's there are certain port names for certain functionalities or certain services that are present on that computer. So if you know that certain ports are open, you can try to hack through them. Okay, or if you know that this person works on this computer, you can actually you know, the hacker might actually try to be friends with that person, and basically you know, somehow try to you know, make him give the information or some information, some further information about the target computer, so that the hacker can use to basically hack into the system. So this is the first step, gathering information. The second step is very much related. One of the pieces of relevant information learned in step one might be the operating system, for example, okay, its version, or a list of services running on it. So basically, if you have the operating system, for example, okay, uh, it's very easy actually to look up this operating system and see which vulnerabilities that were discovered on that operating system. If you learn that it has vulnerabilities, basically there is a chance that this computer might not be patched or might not be fixed for these vulnerabilities. So basically you try to attack that computer from the known vulnerabilities for that operating system. Okay, if you have a list of services, today's computers actually are characterized by being actually developed. The software is being developed by so many people actually. If you look at a piece of software like the Windows operating system, for example, okay, it has so many different components that are basically developed by so many different companies. If you know the list of services for these computers, then you can use that list of services and look up these services and see if they have vulnerabilities or not. If they have vulnerabilities, then you can actually try to attack that computer through these services. Okay, so basically, as I was saying here, when the target operating system and version is known, the attacker looks for any known vulnerabilities specific to that version of the operating system or other operating systems. And basically, once you have that vulnerability identified, you either look for a previously written exploit or basically develop one. Okay, so the hackers are very good software programmers, by the way. They are not really they are not like people who don't know what they do. They are very good programmers, but they are actually using their skills in the in a bad way. So basically they look for an exploit. We said that last time. An exploit is basically a program written to take advantage of a vulnerability. Okay, so basically if they find that an exploit is present, is available somewhere, okay, they can just try it. If not, they can actually try to develop an exploit themselves and use it to attack that system. One of the most dangerous attacks, as we said before, is something called advanced persistent threats. The problem with advanced persistent threats is that they are basically kind of attacks that are meant to be multi-phase. They have multiple phases. They are long-term. They are actually make sure that they hide themselves well. So basically, it's like the attacks that happened in the US, where they actually discovered that there was malware basically in several departments, several like ministries, okay, at the highest level of government. These attacks actually started a long time ago, and basically they start to propagate very slowly without making any noise, without basically causing any suspicion, okay. At the end, they have access to much higher levels, and they basically can target very high value targets, basically like departments, like ministries, or like the Department of Defense or Department of whatever, the intelligence agency, whatever, so that they can get very high value targets. Okay, so basically usually advanced persistent threats are well funded. So usually they are done by usually governments or intelligence agencies or whatever. So basically, this is actually allows when you have a well-funded project like this, you have complexity and you have a very high skill level. Basically, these are required to have something that would be basically allow such attacks to basically take place. So basically, the attacks that happened in the US basically China was playing for them, basically. because basically it was very likely actually that the kind of attacks would operate from there. So basically there were some leads. It's very difficult, of course, to know exactly who did that, but actually all the circumstantial evidence pointed to China. They are usually related to network-based espionage. So basically, espionage is like spying, okay? And basically, its main purpose is to deploy customized malware on one or multiple of the target systems and remain undetected. This is very important, okay? And basically, with multiple phases of operation and several customized types of malware that affect different devices and perform specific functions, individual attacker often lacks skill sets, resources, or persistence to carry out APTs, advanced persistent threats. So basically, the evidence that people saw actually about this, that individual attackers or individual small groups of hackers, they don't really care much about attacking the basic Department of Defense in the US, for example. They want to make some money, basically. And they are not really, they cannot really stay for a long time before they make money. They want to make money as soon as possible. So basically, this kind of attack actually is not, it's like a state-sponsored hacking. It's not really an individual hacker or a group of hackers. Basically, it requires more resources and more patience and more very specific targets. And basically, the outcome of such threats are usually in the form of information, not in the form of money. So basically, this kind of things is either a state like a country like China or Russia or whatever, or a multinational corporation in competition with another, for example. Okay. Other than that, I don't think any hacker would have the resources to do advanced persistent threats. So basically, the stages that you would see in APT usually start with infiltration, as the figures shows you here. You have infiltration, and basically this infiltration basically is the first step. Basically, when you infiltrate a system, basically what you do is basically you are in now. Okay, after you are in, you're basically trying to expand. Okay, expand means that you're trying to move from one computer to another and add a lot of add more computers to your network, or basically transfer that malware into other computers. When you reach the level of access that you need, so basically now you start extracting information and sending back that information to the APT threat hackers, basically. Okay, so basically you infiltrate first and then expand, which is like a lateral movement, like you're trying to propagate along the basically different computers in the organization, and then you extract information after that. One of the very common attacks actually is a denial of service attack. The denial of service attack is very common and can be done with minimal technical competence, actually. So basically, if you hear about students like high school doing attacks, basically they are using that kind of attack. There are tools on the internet that you can actually download and use to do that, if you can imagine this. Okay, so basically, denial of service attack is a type of attack that results in some sort of interruption of network services to users, devices, or applications. So basically, what you're trying to do is something that would make a certain website or a certain service appears as it is offline. The kind of attack would basically, it's very simple actually. If there is a server like Tawakkalna, for example, if you send 1 million requests to Tawakkalna at the same time, then basically Tawakkalna will be very busy trying to handle them. If a legitimate user is trying to access Tawakkalna, he would find that Tawakkalna is offline, is not working, is not responding. This is the kind of attack we're talking about. Imagine that people do that to banks. And actually, they use it as a first step to do more harm, basically. Sometimes they attack certain banks, and then they create another website that looks like the original website of that bank, and basically try to fool people into logging in that other website while they collect their login information. So basically, there are two major types of denial of service attacks. Basically, the first one here is overwhelming quantity of traffic, which is what we were talking about now. When the network or host or application is sent an enormous quantity of data at a rate which it cannot handle, it causes slowdown in the transmission or response, or even crash sometimes. It can crash, okay? So basically, this is just a matter of having so many computers trying to access that service or access that host at the same time, okay? The other one is basically what's called maliciously formatted packets. So now you're not sending as many packets, you're not connecting with so many computers, but actually you're confusing that server. So basically you have a maliciously formatted packet, like what we said before. Basically, if the server has a vulnerability, and that vulnerability is related to something like verification of input, like what we said before, then you might actually send something that would actually make it confused. So basically, it would take a lot of time to handle a single request. So basically, if it's like this, if it's busy doing anything, then it's not serving the legitimate customers, and basically you have a denial of service. Denial of service means that a legitimate user cannot access the website, the network, the application, whatever, okay? So basically, you're doing that using one of these two techniques. So basically, it's, as I was saying, basically, denial of service attacks are considered major risk. This is basically the easiest one to do because they can easily interrupt communication and cause significant loss of time and money, and they are relatively simple to conduct. Very simple to conduct. Okay, even by unskilled attackers. Okay, so basically you can look, you can search the internet and you will find open source codes that would allow you actually to do that. So it's that simple. Basically, you can download the software and run it to create a denial of service for a certain server. Okay, which is actually not a good thing, definitely. Okay, so this is one of the most dangerous because actually one of the most widely available. Okay, so it's like, for example, in the US, they complain about gun control. Gun control means that they are afraid that people would use guns to basically do crime, basically kill people, like students in high school or even less than that. They can take guns with them to their schools and basically kill people there. Okay, so basically this is a big problem because guns are everywhere. They are accessible. They are very easy. Basically, you can get a gun without even, it doesn't really take that much effort to do that. Okay, so imagine that you're giving people, you're giving laymen, you're giving people who have no technical expertise programs that allow them can allow them to do denial of service attacks. So if the servers are not prepared to handle such denial of service attacks, basically you can basically fall victim to such attacks without being able to recover. A more complex version of denial of service is distributed denial of service attacks. So basically, instead of having a single computer doing the flooding of the server with requests, you have many computers doing that. We talked before about bots, about robots, basically, robot computers, okay? We talked about them. Bots, we talked about them, we actually mentioned that they are called botnets, okay? So basically, they are networks of zombie or basically computers that are acting as robots. And these robots actually are controlled by a certain attacker. Basically, there is a command and control center, and this command and control center. Basically, these computers have certain type of malware that makes them just wait and listen to a command from an attacker. Okay, and this command can be basically as simple as try to connect to this server. That's it. Okay, if you have so many of these, and actually this is very possible, by the way, and some of the botnet they actually discovered and disassembled had as many computers as almost 500,000 computers, if you can imagine that. One other thing, actually, we talked about if Internet of Things last time. Internet of Things, basically the devices in Internet of Things, some of them actually can act as a computer, or basically they have the capability of perform like a computer. Basically, they can connect to the internet, they can request things from servers, things of that sort. So basically, Internet of Things are much more than the computers. So they are now considered as one of the problems for this kind of attacks, basically, because actually there are so many, and basically are vulnerable. As we said, we're going to talk about it in some more detail later on. And basically the problem with them is that they are not updated, they have vulnerabilities, and basically sometimes they have default password that you can't change. So basically they are very much ideal victims for hackers. So if they can gather a very large number of bots or robot computers, they can basically launch distributed denial of service attacks. Inshallah, next time, our next topic, we're going to talk about networking. We're going to talk about how basically how you can communicate between different computers, and we will learn that basically if you're trying to do an attack from a certain computer, just one computer, you can eventually detect the IP address of that computer, the address where this traffic is coming from, and block it. If you have distributed denial of service attack, it's extremely difficult to do that because you have so many computers on so many different networks with very different addresses. So it's extremely important to block a distributed denial of service attack. Okay, so this is basically the super version, or the basically what they call a denial of service on steroids, basically. So basically, it's like a magnified version of denial of service attack. And basically, this is extremely difficult to defend against. Okay, so basically, it relies on having a botnet. So basically, the first step is to have a botnet. And when you have a botnet, basically, so basically, you create a botnet. And after you create a botnet, basically, the infected host, sometimes they are called zombies, are controlled by a handler system. And basically, the zombie computers constantly scan and infect more hosts and creating more zombies. So basically, they are expanding the botnet, the number of hosts or the number of computers in the network or the botnet. And whenever ready, when the hacker wants to carry the distributed denial of service attack, all of them attack at once. Okay, so extremely dangerous, extremely difficult to defend against. Okay, so this is basically the probably whenever you hear about denial of service attack, it's very likely to be the distributed denial of service attack, because if it's attack from denial of service attack from a single host, for example, it's easy to defend against. Here, it's not. Many of the most dangerous attacks come in a blended form. So basically, they are trying different things at once, not just once. So basically, we're talking about not just one form of malware. They are trying several forms at once. So for example, let me give you just an outline of something. And basically, this is actually one of the NIMDA attack actually occurred using a virus, phishing emails, websites that are infected, and basically some of the worms that are basically affecting networking devices. So basically, imagine the following scenario. There is a bank basically that was attacked. Basically, a distributed denial of service attack on a bank that basically took down the servers of that bank. So people who have accounts on that bank, cannot access their accounts, basically. Okay. At the same time, basically they were able to get basically through emails. They sent emails to so many people, like a spam email, but actually for the people who have accounts on that bank, it doesn't seem like a spam, because basically it tells them that we are sorry about the interruption of the service of our bank, and basically please log in through that alternate website. So basically, through that phishing, basically it's now targeted, because basically it's targeting the customers of that bank. Okay, so basically people think that this is basically the response of the bank to the the problem in their server. So basically they try to log in through the alternate website, and basically the hackers would collect the login information, and basically they can actually log into the real website, the real bank website, and basically do whatever they want with their accounts. So basically it's a blended type, meaning that you're using different things at the same time. And these are the most dangerous, basically. These are the most damaging, basically. So basically, whenever that happens, then it's a very complicated. It's basically you're talking about the top hackers that do that. And unfortunately, the complexity of attacks have been increasing with time, basically. So now, you hear every now and then about a major attack, major, hacking that happened, and basically such events now are likely to be blended attacks. So blended attacks in general are attacks that are or use different techniques at the same time. And basically these different techniques would actually they are more likely to basically succeed more than a single technique. Because for example, if you just use denial of service attack and just take down the server without the phishing email that would lure the users to log into the alternate website, basically many people would not notice the other website. So basically, when you combine the two, you gain a little bit more, or much more actually, likelihood for the people to actually fall into it. Okay, so basically, let's just agree that blended attacks are on the rise, and basically they combine different techniques, and they are much more dangerous and much more damaging than basically single technique attack. So what should we do to basically try to reduce the impact of data breach? Data breach means that, for example, a hospital had a hack. Basically, somebody hacked into their computers, and basically there was a suspicion that they actually accessed the patient database. What would you do? Or basically there was a problem was basically related to the information due to that hack. Okay, first of all, you have to realize that no set of security practices is 100% efficient. So basically it's very likely that an attack will happen. So basically this is very important. No security practices is 100% efficient, and breach is likely to happen. So basically you better from now not just try to beef up or try to heighten the security measures that you're using. Try to also have a plan when a breach happens, when a hack happens, what should you do then? Okay, so basically companies and organizations must also be prepared to contain damage when a hack happens. So the thing that you have to realize is that the impact of a breach is not only related to technical aspects, it also extends to company reputation or organization reputation. So for example, for Yahoo, for example, when it had a major breach, basically its value in the market became a little bit it tumbled. Basically you don't hear about Yahoo that today as it was like 10 years ago before that hack, or 15 years ago. Okay, so basically it can cause a company to basically collapse if the public trust in that company due to that hack became basically it was shaken basically. Okay, so Responding to a data breach is a dynamic process uh, that has several important measures. For example, first of all, you have to communicate the issue to employees and customers. Basically, the most dangerous thing people do actually in such things is to try to hide it. This is extremely dangerous actually, and this what happened. This is what Yahoo did actually. It didn't it basically announce the hack until much later. So basically, you have to communicate with employees and customers to create transparency, which is crucial in this case. So basically, this is very important for the reputation, definitely. Okay, if you don't do that, if people thought that you're trying to hide it or cover it up, this would be a big problem. The thing is also is that you have to be accountable. Basically, if the data breach affected certain individuals and they were harmed by it, you have to be accountable for such harm. So basically, try to compensate them, for example. Let me give you an example. For example, if somebody lost his money in the bank, for example, because of this hack, okay? I'm talking about this one now, okay? So basically, if somebody lost a certain amount of money because of a hack, you actually have to be accountable and say that this is my fault, my security measures were not good enough, and I'm going to compensate you for the money that you lost. Just very simple as that. You have to provide details and explain why the situation took place and what was compromised, and also take care of the costs of identity theft protection services for affected customers. Uh, Basically, if like sometimes actually hackers attack what's called Social Security in the US. Social Security has the information, the details of every person in the US. Okay, it's not just the citizens; it's also the foreigners who live in the US. So basically, if you are in the US and you get the Social Security information of a person, then you can actually assume the identity of that person. You can actually uh, 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 get credit cards in his name. Okay, you can basically try to buy a house using his identity. You can basically talk to banks as if you are that person, and this is very dangerous actually. There are services called identity theft protection, and basically these are uh, more like insurance. Basically, whenever an identity theft happens, that service actually would try to restore that identity to that person first of all, and basically uh, takes care of the cost of that identity theft. If that person, for example, got a credit card with the name of the hacked person, basically, and spend a lot of money, basically this service would pay for that money. So this is very important. So basically, if a hack happens, and this hack would actually cause an identity theft, the organization should actually pay the cost of the identity theft protection services. You have to understand what caused and facilitated the breach, including, if necessary, hiring forensic experts. Basically, forensic experts are like basically what they call it, crime labs in the police force. So basically, these are the people who come, basically for the police, for example, they come and look for fingerprints, they look for evidence like any kind of, you know, things that are left like, you know, a hair of a person or whatever, so that they can actually try to trace it back to who did the crime. So basically, forensic experts in the field of cybersecurity are very important. They look at the log files of computers, they look at the events that happened, they try to reconstruct a sequence of events that led to whatever happened. And when they do that, actually, they can actually identify, sometimes they can identify who did that, but actually, usually the hackers, even if you identify that this is the group of hackers called XYZ, for example, it's very difficult to basically prosecute them, because sometimes they are basically overseas. They have basically don't have their identities, but they actually, but the most important thing is to know how they were able to hack your system, so that you can actually try to improve the security measure that you have on your system. So basically, this is very important. it's very important to also apply what was learned from forensic investigation to ensure that such breaches do not happen again. So basically here you understand, here you apply what you understood to make things better in the future. Uh, Sometimes after a hack, and if you think that the hack is just going to be gone by changing a few things, usually it's not that simple. So basically, you have to make sure and verify that all systems are clean. Make sure that you have no backdoors. Basically, make sure that nothing else has been compromised. So sometimes you think that a certain server was compromised. Sometimes it's just one out of several. So basically, you have to actually look at the whole network, the whole, all the servers that you have, so that you make sure that basically nothing else was compromised, and make sure that the computers that were compromised were restored and now clean without any backdoors. So so that basically the hackers cannot hack into them again. It's very important to educate employees, partners, and customers on how to prevent future breaches. This is very important. This is extremely important. So basically, all of them are actually related, because employees and partners basically, employees are basically the people who are working in the company. So with social engineering, people can get the information out of an employee and basically use that information to hack the system. Partners are other companies that are working together with that company. Sometimes they have access to some resources in the company. So basically, sometimes the hack comes from one of these partners, okay, or by mistakes, for example. Customers usually have accounts on that system, on the company's system usually. And sometimes when you even have a customer account, you can still have information about the system that would allow a hacker to try to take advantage of it to basically create an attack. So basically, it's very important to understand that it's not enough to try to prevent a data breach. This is definitely the first thing you should do. But you also have to make sure that whenever a data breach happens, you have a very clear plan on what to do. Inshallah, next time we're going to talk about protecting your computing devices. I'm really sorry about the quality of the lecture today, and also about the problems that we had on the start of the lecture, and
Maybe
also
you
for
have a
change time.
cybersecurity problem. You need to. Maybe you
This
have a
is just a computer problem. It's not cyber. I hope my computer is not infected, but. Anyway, so basically, inshallah, next time we're going to resume our lectures at the regular time, and inshallah, we will not have any further, mishaps again in our lectures. I would like to point out that I have the homework and the project for this part posted on Blackboard. I actually intended to do that early, because basically what you're going to do is to read about something that we're not going to cover in the lecture. Okay, it's like research. You're going to research. You're going to read a few things and basically try to report on them. You have to write a very short report and basically do a presentation, a 5-minute presentation on that topic, basically. And this presentation, I'm going to post it on the YouTube channel of the program, of the American Engineering program. Okay, so basically, it's very important that you try to understand that topic and basically explain it to your colleagues in the course, and basically to biomedical engineers in general, so that they understand basically what what the topic is about. So basically, I chose 8 different topics, and these topics actually are very much what people are talking about now. So basically, they are kind of addressing several aspects of cybersecurity, and I would like you to just understand that topic and basically simplify it to others so that they can understand it. Okay, this is extremely important.
So,
Okay?
Doctor, what's required is just search on that. I saw you put our IDs, so I will see my ID. and see the
Yes,
topic
yes.
and then doing
Basically,
the research.
yes. Basically, what I did was I basically started with the topics, and then in order to distribute these topics in a fair manner, basically I took your IDs from the course website, from the Blackboard actually, and basically scrambled them. Okay, so that the first topic goes to the first one after scrambling randomly, basically. So basically the topics are random. Okay, the idea is not basically I want you to be able to research a topic in this field, basically, and this topic might be something you didn't know anything about, which is actually a very, if you got a topic that you know nothing about it, it's an advantage. You shouldn't really take much time to do the project. It should take you maybe 2 3 hours maximum. Okay, and at the end you have to do a presentation. In order to record a presentation, it's extremely simple. Through PowerPoint, you can actually record your presentation. You can actually record your voice and basically the timing of the slides. You can do whatever you want. If you don't know how to do that, just let me know, and I'll point you to some resources to basically try to understand how to do that. It's extremely simple.
So,
Okay.
so doctor, the presentation will not.
The
The
presentation
presentation
will what?
will not be presented. Will not be presented
No,
here.
actually,
We
you're
will
going to
just
send it to
record.
me. I'm going to post it on YouTube so that everybody in the course will basically be able to see it. Okay? So basically, you're going to send me the presentation. I'm going to post it on YouTube. I'm going to ask everybody to look at all of them. Okay? And I'm going to actually give you an exercise, like one of the like a very simple assignment, basically with one question on each topic. Okay, so that I make sure that each of you actually at least looked at the presentation. So it's going to be a very simple question about the basic idea of each one of the topics, but I just want to make sure that all of you get the idea of the other topics, not just the topic that you have. I want you to get a general overview of the other topics. Okay, so basically it should be a very useful exercise for all of you. And for those of you who would like to basically pursue research, like a research point in that area, this would be extremely useful. Okay, the things I sent you are very valuable resources. Some of them are papers, some of them are like guidance documents from NIST, for example, one of the major standardization agencies in the US. Basically, some of them are like discussions, basically between experts. So basically, when you read them, you gain very good overview of what the topic is about. They are not very technical. You're not required to read everything. You basically just skim through whatever I sent you so that you get the idea. If you read the first few lines and got the idea and were able to write the report and do the presentation, it's fine. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to ask you about the papers or whatever. The papers are like guidance to you, suggested guidance. If you see another resource that is better, please use it. Okay? Any questions? Okay. So inshallah, we'll see you on Sunday. And I'm really sorry again about the lecture today.